Greetings, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. I started a little series called Smoke and Mirrors last week, and there was a little conflagration went through our family, so I halted my daily video challenge. But today I thought it was time to get back to it. So this is Smoke and Mirrors episode number 3 that I'm calling Where There's Smoke. You know that phrase, where there's smoke, there's fire. So I got thinking about smoke in relation to worry. I don't know about you, but I'm a champion worrier. And unfortunately, I've kind of passed that tendency along to my son. Well, worry is, when I think of it in relation to smoke, there's this pervasive something to worry about over here and something to worry about over there. You don't have to spend too long listening to the news. And if you really wanted to get immersed in it, there's plenty to worry about in what's going on our planet. And for some reason, we think there's plenty to worry about in our own lives. Un- and fortunately or unfortunately, most of those things that we worry about never come to pass. We worry about how our kids are going to do in school. We worry about, will there be enough money to pay all the bills? We worry, 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 worry. And all of that smoke just tends to distort what's really going on with us as magnificent beings and what's possible for us in the way we create our own lives. So, and of course, too much of that worry, there's bound to be a little spark somewhere that grows into a little fire. You've probably experienced this yourself where you spent the whole day, quotes, putting out fires at work. There was a problem over here. There was discord over there. Something went wrong in the shipping department. Something didn't happen that was supposed to happen with a potential customer or a new customer. And there's this constant barrage of things, and you go home at the end of the day absolutely exhausted because all of these fires took all of your energy. And every now and again, something big happens, something that's super dramatic or traumatic or whatever that blindsides us and just comes at us. And our fear surrounding that can tend to grow from just worry and a sense of unease to this big, oh no. And the fear can immobilize us in some cases. It can cause us to panic, it can cause us to run. And physiologically, our bodies go on high alert. And depending on what the scenario is, that can carry on for days and days and sometimes weeks. Well, what it seeds is this further sense of unease, this further sense that actually my world is not a very safe place. And we can fall into the trap of either feeling that we need to be on guard all the time, kind of warrior mode, or we fall into victim mode and well, why is everything bad always happening to me? So it's not an easy place to be. So this past week, what triggered this whole me backing away from my video challenge was one of our family members entered hospital in serious, serious stress and had a medical condition that required almost immediate surgery and then subsequent stay in ICU and followed by more surgery and more surgery. So it's been a rough week. And it was this out of the blue fire that just sprang up in our lives. And then we're on high alert. We've been on high alert all week, and none of us can quite feel secure in what we know because we don't know what's going to happen. And things could get way worse, things could get way better. We just don't know. And unfortunately, I know my default has been to fall into the, oh, well, this, this looks bleak. There doesn't look to be any way out of this, and this is rough, and so on. And of course, it's not my own life I'm talking about. I'm part of it. I'm involved in it because it's a family member, but it's not coming at me personally. So my challenge this week has been to examine how I feel about all this. And I admit I was angry. I was frustrated. I was um, wanting to blame something or somebody or whatever. Of course, there was nobody to blame. And then I was upset with myself because I was off kilter. I couldn't establish my own equilibrium, and it hit me hard. So it took a few days for me to not only sit with that in the midst of back and forth trips to the hospital and phone calls and emails and all of that kind of thing in relation to this particular catastrophe, and say, okay, Sue, you're okay, actually. You are still you. You haven't been harmed by this. Oh, yes, it's felt very upsetting, but you're still you. So let's go looking for you that seems to have disappeared, and my usual sense of peace and confidence and just serenity that was badly shaken needs to come back to the fore again. So it faded into the background for a little while because I was frantic and I was upset, and it surprised me in a way that I was upset as I was. So then so what do we do when we're hit with these kinds of scenarios where there's just been this smoky stuff going on, ongoing, and then all of a sudden there's a big conflagration, that this wall of fire, this wall of fear that hits us, and it leaves us believing that we have no power, that we're not in control, that we can't do any quotes, do anything about this. Well, we may not be able to do anything about the situation that exists because it's the situation, and it may be totally out of our control, or we may have just a tiny bit of control. Regardless, what we still have control over, if we choose to exert it, is ourselves. We have control over our attitude. We have the ability to examine and deal with our feelings. We can, although it seems a little harder to turn off the thinking tap, to tell the monkey mind to just back off and go sit in a corner and think about something else, to bring ourselves back to a sense of peace and ease. In stress terminology, they call it homeostasis, where we're at a kind of an even keel level. Nothing's really high, nothing's really low. Everything's kind of cool. Well, it's hard to do that when we're spiked into fight, flight, or freeze. And yet it's essential, because for our physical well-being, when we experience over-the-top stress for more than 3 days, all our immune fighters get depleted. It's as if the army gets so exhausted. I think, for example, of the firefighters, well, they battle and battle and battle and battle these horrific blazes for days, and at some point they hit total exhaustion. And it's at that point they need a break. They need somebody to come in and take over, and it's time for them to get some fresh air, get a change of scenery and a change of pace so that they can regroup, refuel, refocus, all of those kinds of things. Well, that's no different in what each of us faces on a daily basis, that when we hit those times of high stress, high fear, high uncertainty, all those kinds of things, then whatever we can do to ease the pressure of that situation is going to be beneficial to our bodies, beneficial to our souls, our spirit, and gives us an opportunity to regain that equilibrium. So what did I do this past week? Well, after 2 or 3 days of going, then I started back into my meditation practice. And it was difficult because my mind wanted to just race all over. Well, I just let it race all over, but still I was breathing deeply. I was doing my best to pull myself back, to pull myself back, to pull myself back. After a day or two of that flurry of regaining my center, I began to feel more centered. I started doing more of the everyday things that I normally do. Cleaned up my kitchen, cooked some food for myself, did more in relation to self-care than I had done the days previously. Well, all of that has helped. And I knew that I needed a total change of pace when I turned on a little video game that I have on my phone that's just a mindless, I'm not thinking about anything except maneuvering blocks and doing whatever. Well, that was good for me because I knew that I was reestablishing my own rhythm because I felt good about just immersing myself in an activity that was fine. And same thing with, I turn on a TV show that I liked and watch a movie or a TV program that just got me out of my current scenario and gave me a break from the world. So that kind of escape is helpful in giving us a different perspective. The other thing, of course, is I leaned on my friends and other family members, and I said, wow, this is what's happening. And just in the spilling it out and them so graciously listening to what I had to say and commiserating with me, giving me their support, that meant a lot. So, we're back to this whole idea that we don't exist in a vacuum. We need each other. We need to be able to connect in a way that supports each of us. And thankfully, when my friends are down, I'm usually up, and vice versa. So we trade places often, and because life is pretty chaotic right now for a lot of us. And but we get through it because we know we have that backup, we have that support. And of course, because I have this underpinning of that that the universe has got my back, that what happens for me, not to me, that I can have that optimistic sense, then that makes it easier to reassert myself when things go off the rails, and especially unexpected things that you didn't know were going to happen, and all of a sudden, wham, there it is, right right in your face. So if you're going through some things like that, which I suspect a lot of you are, take heart and look within to see where you can regain your own sense of peace, your own equilibrium. Your immune system will thank you for that. You'll be able to maintain your level of health, whether it's going for a run or lots of walks or something to dispel that high stress energy so that you can become grounded again and then carry on. Because let's face it, we're not much good to anybody else when we haven't taken care of ourselves, when we run ourselves ragged. That doesn't serve anybody, because then eventually we're the next ones that are faced with having a health challenge because we didn't take care of what we needed to take care of, and only we could take care of. So that's my thoughts for today on the whole smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire. So if you're putting out fires, there's a few tidbits in there I hope for you to move forward with. If you're enjoying my Heaven on Earth series on my YouTube channel, please subscribe. That when I know I have listeners that are depending on me to keep shooting videos, it just gives me a little lift, and I'm even more committed to sharing what I have to share. And of course, there's a little notification button you can turn on so you get an alert each time there's a new video. And if you'd like to find out a little more about the Magnificence Lab, you can always go to magnificencelab.org. Check out the podcasts that are there and read about the community that I'm establishing. And I'm more than happy to connect with you further if that's of interest to you. In the meantime, take good care, go breathe some fresh air, and just have a marvelous, magnificent day.